Yep. Hey everyone, it's Robert A. and thanks for joining me and Pastor Jackson, our support group this week. We're not going to give the whole spiel this time because we're correcting a issue. Hopefully, you guys will be joining us again soon. But Clarence, you wanted to share a little bit about that aspect in terms of perspective, even when you have the hard facts, right in front of you. How difficult it can be to make sound decisions sometimes if you have a perspective that you just can't not embrace. You know what I mean?
That's extremely difficult. I've, you know, I think I mostly dealt with that when it comes to relationships, if I can be honest.
Mm,
Where it's like you know that it's not right, but you
right.
still keep trying to figure out a way to make it, and you kind of have, and then once it if it crumbles, you kind of already
That's good.
could have or should have known that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so that's really what I think of that too.
So, what do you think? Not heals that, but what do you think? Because I've been in that same situation, and perspective is a thing that can lead you one way or the other. If you don't
Mm.
lose it, like in a situation like that, when a relationship where somebody's showing you all their cards, right? But like for me, I was a potential chaser. Like I chased the potential in people. So having the perspective of I see something in you uh, made me ignore a lot of hard facts, right? And as a result, has damaged the health of my mind, right? Because that's the spiral, the down spiral that happens when our perspective is out of whack. So sometimes we have to use perspective, but sometimes perspective can really get us into trouble. And I think one thing that got me in the most trouble is that I have won so many times in life because of my perspective, right? Because of my outlook, it's caused me to win so much that you bet on it a little too much, and then you get out of touch with reality in terms of the hard facts. So that's why I think this perspective is so interesting because it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous if you get caught up in it. And you like can't nobody tell me nothing. Um, I think because we'll talk about this later, but because of where your perspective comes from, I think that's why it's a beast that you have to keep in containment. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's true. It always reminds me of. I'll go ahead and say this since you're not listening.
No, I'm listening.
It
I'm
always
sharing the link
reminds
so
me.
people can get back on.
Oh, okay. It always reminds me of a book that I read. The one that I mentioned some time ago. The Four Agreements by uh, Juan Miguel or Juan Miguel Ruiz. That's his name,
Mm,
Juan Miguel Ruiz. And he says in one of them that one is don't take things personally. I think number one is
don't take things personally. You
it's
said that was
almost
number
like
one.
no number two is don't take things personally. Number one is be impeccable with your word. And
We talked
in
about
order to
this one.
do that, yeah, a lot of people think when he says that he's talking about when you make an agreement with somebody. That's not what he's saying. He's saying be impeccable with the word that you speak about
That you choose,
yourself.
yeah, that you
And in
choose to
doing
speak.
so, that will shift. Yeah, he says what we've been doing, what we've done all our lives is we have been, I don't think he used the word seasoned in his research. He used another term, but in other
Mm,
words, it's being conditioned to think the way that we think. And a lot of people are negative because their parents were negative. A lot of people are mean because somebody that raised them were mean, or a lot of
yeah.
people are afraid of dogs because somebody else got bit. It's based upon your perspective. And so if you realign, refocus, reshift how you choose to view the world, your perspective will ultimately change. So says the author of the book.
No, that's very true. Simply because, and I said when I said we were going to discuss this later, I knew this was coming. Perspective is simply shaped by your environment, where you grew, what you grew up in, your experiences, the things that when you saw this happen and it had this outcome, you decided somewhere in your mind, whatever decisions you made. So every time you see that, it's like, oh no, I know that bottom line is longer than that top line. There's nothing you can tell me because I've
Right.
seen it too many
Right.
times, you know, um, and I think I think not having a grasp on the fact that perceptive is shaped by a lot of your experiences, not necessarily rooted in hard facts all the time. It can be an intuitive tool, but it can be a really damaging tool too. And Ava said that she has that book in her Amazon cart now, that you mentioned.
Get
So
it and
because you
breathe it.
you
And then
mentioned
he
it
has
all the
another
time.
book that you'll read after that called The Fifth Agreement that you'll like as well.
Hmm. So he gonna keep monetizing that and keep
We're gonna keep
agreeing.
agreeing with it.
Oh man, that's smart. I wish I'd have came up with it.
Yeah.
But if you all are
Yeah.
back with
Like
us, thank you for suffering with us and suffering through our technical difficulties with us. Believe me, it's more frustrating to us and causes more mental
than it is to
damage
you,
on
yes.
us than it is to you because I will be saying a lot of choice words after this is over. But
And I've gotta hear them all.
but I want you to, if you can, if you know someone who was on the live and they're not, you're not sure if they've come back, share this link with them so that they can be on here with us. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're here and comment in the comment box or in the anonymous chat if you have something on your heart that you'd like to bear. And again, thanks for being with us. And we're just here trying to grow in terms of our mental health, in terms of how we approach our day-to-day lives. So Clarence, what are some tools that you can use, or what are some tools that you use? A lot of people aren't aware of their perspective. Like it wasn't until I was about 29 that I really was aware that like everything I thought in my head wasn't like true, right? It wasn't like fact. That there was a greater world outside of my thinking, and people are operating on false information, and like somebody might read your face right now as disinterested, and they don't know that you just have a long, you know, elongated face. So
Now are we
all
doing this right
no,
now?
no,
Or are we
I'm
gonna
just
wait?
okay, okay.
No, no,
No,
no,
because I let you
no,
in one last
no,
week. I let you in one
no,
last
no,
week.
no, no, no,
So
doctor. No, doctor. Doctor. This is let's call this a commercial.
no, no.
You know,
So
commercials comes when
no.
the show getting good.
When
Now
when
we
the
doing
viewers
this
get
right
here,
now, doc?
then you can have a commercial. Get the viewers here,
Are
and then we
we
can have a
doing
commercial.
this right now, or we just gonna do a
But no,
drive by and let me just
yeah, that's a drive by. But that's
okay.
perception, right? And that's not fact. It isn't rooted in fact. And so I think, especially with talking with a lot of people, I talk with kids mostly, but talking with a lot of people, it's like whatever's happening up here is just like the realest thing, right? It's like there's no room for any other um, information or facts, and I think that's where a lot of people go wrong with. I think that's what leads to depression. Perception, where I should be versus where I am now. Where I am on the path. Right. Same thing as this line. It's like it's all wrapped up in perception. Um, how can we find a good balance between the two? Having that perception because it's important. Perception isn't out of nowhere, right? But when I perceive myself as not far along as other people, what I really should be dealing with in that perception is how do I feel about myself, not making that statement real just because I feel it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay, because
Mhm.
I've been on both sides of the fence. So like, what do you think is a good tool or tactic to be able to be in touch with reality and fuse that with your perception to be able to make a more sound decision?
I think honestly that it's a matter of ethnocentrism. Now, ethnocentrism, for those of you, is a sociological term which simply means using the yardstick by which you measure yourself to measure other people. That's all it really means. Ethnocentrically, you can say because I earned a degree and we were raised in the same house, you should have earned yours as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you flip that same definition on its head, you can ethnocentrically cause yourself to be pained by somebody else's success. In other words, you can use the yardstick by which they measure themselves to measure you. And so, because you haven't bought the house yet, and y'all were raised in the same community, or whatever the case may be, or you haven't purchased a brand new car yet, or whatever somebody else have that you don't have,
Right.
you're now saying, why haven't I made it there yet? And
To
so
that
now you're
milestone.
perceiving your world through their lens. You're perceiving, or your perception of your world is now being focused on through somebody else's lens. And so I think one of the tools that I had to stick with was recognizing when I was comparing myself to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that not only is an easy task, but it's definitely a difficult task, because to recognize when you're comparing yourself, first you got to realize, are you jealous? Now, you ain't got to tell nobody else, but I had to realize, okay, Clarence, you're comparing yourself to so and so, and they have more than you, and they're younger, or they whatever, and here you are stressing yourself about it and thinking about it and spending hours on it. Is the root of it your jealousy, or is the root of it really you just mad that you don't have it? And are you mad that you don't have it because is the fact that you're mad that you don't have it because they have it and you don't, or is it because you wanted it before them, or is it just you want it for yourself? And so once you get out of the level of competition and really look at it for what it is, then I think you're able to say, all right, well, here are either the steps I'm going to take to acquire it, or here's the reason why I know I don't need it. Clarence Jackson don't need $1 million mansion right now. I don't even need to hit the lottery. Not right now. I was thinking today, bro, and I'm being honest, I have children that are under the age of 7. And so technically, by the time they get older, at the trajectory that I'm on, my children are going to be okay. So it's like, even if I don't get it now, if I shift my perspective and say, well, it's coming, it'll settle my anxieties, my depressions, my worries, my whatever.
Yeah, that's dope. Got some funny comments in the comment section. One is probably a shot for me, but Jeanette said, you better use those big words, Pastor. And I wasn't going to say nothing. I was actually going to start your timer, but when she commented that, I said, I'm going to let him do his thing because somebody else see what I see. So thank you for coming back, Jeanette, and thank you for acknowledging the pastor with all his words. Ashley said that it is good to have a rational person to bounce some of your thoughts off of that you trust. They will tell you if your perception is off. You want to comment on that? I'm not a very rational person.
That's
What's wrong with you?
That's true. No, actually, that's true.
Go ahead.
That's true. I think you're right. There are some people in your life that you want to keep around that you probably shouldn't have as your go-to person when you're going through something.
Yeah, advisors. Yeah.
There are some people that you should really only have when you're not really, when don't call the one that's ready to fight when you got an issue on your job.
When you got to go in the situation room.
Right, because then they come in swinging, and you just need a little bit of wisdom.
Right.
And so you got to kind of know. And like, I know when to call Robert. I know.
You can call me anytime.
Right.
You can call me anytime.
Yeah.
About anything.
And I do call you all the time. But if it's an issue, I usually wait until I come up with a resolution.
People, people wouldn't believe what you're saying right now. It's interesting. They would be like, what?
Oh.
Not him.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm getting a whole lot of thumbs down right now.
Yeah, you're going to get some thumbs down on this video. Don't talk that propaganda. But I think...
Right.
I think for me, perception, like one thing I have to do to combat my perception is I do a lot of rehearsing in my head of events, things that happen. I do it with good events and bad events. It's not just one thing. So if I had a really good time, I'm gonna play it over and over again. But if you really made me mad, I'm really gonna like play it over and over again. And I think halting that and being able to stop that in the middle of its tracks helps to lessen my commitment to perspective. Because once I get the full narrative painted in my head, I'm going to tell you why the story makes sense. Um, so being
To
able
me,
to, yeah, and sometimes you're a smart guy, so you know, if it makes sense to you, then but
seeking
it
expert
doesn't.
advice, right?
Yeah, but it's not an easy road to. I was just thinking about this today. It's very interesting. I was just thinking about this today. Growing up in poverty and growing up in the hood, you never want to get too committed to anything because it's going to be your demise. If you're too committed to any one way of the streets, be it affiliations or drug activity, whatever. If you get too committed to it, um, it damages you. And then I leave poverty and all the middle class wants is commitment, right? It's like you got to commit here, sign this 3 year contract. It's like, wait a minute, them 3 years, like, what are you talking about, right? Like it's such a different world. But my perspective going through my 20s was so skewered because I was in a house that had 12-foot ceilings and I was used to 9-foot ceilings, you know. And it was like, no, you move a little bit differently in this house. And it was like, I had the facts, I had the knowledge. I'm a smart guy, right? I had all of the information, but that perception and perspective is really had too much weight. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 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 yeah. The third agreement of the four agreements.
Let me take my drink while you And this is ginger ale. I don't want anybody to think I'm drinking off camera, but I'm not endorsing Canada Dry.
You could pour anything in an open can, Doc.
If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. We got some comments. Jeanette said, personally, I can be emotional and my emotions can skew my perspective. Sometimes I just go vent or be emotional before I can come back and actually address a situation. That's a good coping mechanism. I think that's healthy as long as you have it in perspective that you're just venting. Because some people really, I think that's dangerous because I think sometimes we seek out the people that are going to validate our venting. And that can help shape that narrative and that perspective. Clarence isn't going to come to me about certain things if he's not ready to hear the blunt truth, and vice versa, right? And we're looking for somebody to just say, "Yeah, that was messed up, wrong call," because you might hear like, "Well, what did you do?" And it's like, I ain't. So. But if you have that outlet really intentionally set up, I think it's a good thing. I think that becomes dangerous when people don't know how to utilize it, though. The ability to vent and get those emotions off and then come back and make a good decision um, versus, seeking that validation. What do you think about that, Clarence?
I would say do be careful with it. I had a person once experience a life altering event,
Mm-hmm.
life altering, and then once God brought them through and got them over the hump, they shared with me. The doctor, said everything, and I shared with them some precautionary measures. Don't drive fast.
Right.
Wear your seatbelt. You know, these kinds of things. Things that somebody who loves you and care for you would say.
Mm-hmm.
You don't tell me that. That's not your job to tell me that. You that. And I'm like, oh, you wanted me to just gloat in the glory.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't want me to remember the story. Okay,
Right.
cool. And so I'm not that kind of friend. I can't just go, oh yay, you messed up, but now you good. Nah, bruh, because when you come back to me with the same issue in 6 months, I'm gonna give you your behind in your hand and say, hey, uh,
Look,
you don't.
look, look
And
at this right
so,
here.
right, it really blew my mind because I'm like, oh, you just want me to be the kind of friend that's like, oh yeah, you great, give you a trophy just because you came in fourth place. No, no, no. I'm gonna tell you the facts, and if you don't want that, and I shared with them. I'll end by this. I shared with them, had what I said come from someone else, you would have accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
But because it came from me specifically, you just wanted my accolades. No, you got to understand that someone who loves you and cares for you, especially a good friend, is not just going to always say, "Hey, great job."
Right,
No, you messed up.
right.
You messed up.
But
So
that's
yeah,
a part of your perception too. If you see it as messing up,
precisely.
right? Like, and that's the danger of it. That's the danger of it all. How much of it gets weighted, and that's why it's important to guard yourself and, like you said, have that close counsel, um, and like Ashley's comment initiated, having
But the
that close
council,
circle.
like you said, the council, and I think Jeanette was saying this, and you alluded to this. The council should not just be yes men.
Right,
You can
right.
find a million people to tell you how pretty you are or how great you are. You got to have an accountability partner or partners. Boy, ain't nothing wrong.
I was just making sure that it was good because you said beauty, so I was
Let
just.
me see. No, let me see it again. Let me see it again.
No, you almost made
No,
me call you a
roll it
word.
back.
Ava
Roll it back
said
down. No,
some people.
no, no, no,
No,
no.
we're not gonna be rude to Ava. Some people don't have a good perception of reality, myself included. But
Right.
sometimes when you aren't dumb, it's hard to talk yourself down because that would be telling yourself it's a dumb idea. Yeah, I have a term for this that I can't use on um, the live, but I call it mind screwing yourself. And that's when you,
I'm
um,
sure they conjecture what the other part would
yeah,
have been.
so that's fine. Um, because I'm a highly intelligent guy as well, but sometimes, that perception of reality being off, um, that's independent of intellect, and it's weird because it's a different part of your. It's not even your brain; it's your mind. It's your emotions and your experiences, coupled with your knowledge. To influence behavior. It's a different part of your brain. It's a different exercise. So for me, when I see you say that you don't have a good perception of reality, um, for me, words of affirmation help me see what's real, what's going on. If I think, you know, Clarence and I are friends, you know, and he say, "Hey, bro, call me later." That's affirming to me that okay, we are on the same page in terms of what we discuss, et cetera, et cetera. So but again, I use it with very select people, because a lot of people think some things about me that just are not real, and I can't see that as a perception of reality. But you have to understand that everybody's opinion or everybody's thought is a fragment of reality. It's their perception. Reality means kind of real, like real, right? It means like a representation of what's real. It isn't, truth. It isn't pure fact. So I think, and I hope I didn't confuse you any more than you were, Ava. Let me know if that was clear for you. But I think having a good balance of that, Napoleon Hill calls it a mastermind, or that community, that cabinet, is really where um, people like me who struggle with perception, being diagnosed with what I was diagnosed with, uh, is a real important key.
Is this uh, like you tossing me the ball, or
No, I was just wondering why your curtains are moving and nobody's behind you. Like that,
the
like
spirit of the living God? The spirit of the living God.
it's behind the curtain. That's the holy and most holy back there. Let us know what you
And
guys
if
are
you
think.
keep talking, it'll be rent.
From top to bottom.
Ah, come
I
on,
know.
Doc.
I know a little
Come
something.
on, let's know your word, Reverend.
I ain't a complete heathen. Let us know what you think. I see that there are people here with us. I don't have anything in the anonymous comments, but let us know how you guys feel in terms of perception and what we've discussed even from the beginning in terms of this image that we have here. Um, there's
I think
another.
it's important that. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
Rock paper scissors.
You won. You got to rock. You put the rock down one time. You said rock paper scissors. Only did rock.
I was saying let's go, like,
All right, come on.
and you gotta go on shoot.
So there are other images like this, like when you have a table, and if you turn the table, one table will appear to look longer than the other table. Um, but having the knowledge that they're the same table, it just depends on the position. Really,
I got
really.
an allegory too.
Say again.
I have an allegory, but go ahead.
I don't know what that word means.
Like like Plato's allegory of the cave, like an
Oh,
imagery,
oh,
like
oh,
a.
yeah, 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 yeah. So I just that just really resonated me in terms of relationships, and how much of our perception should we use. First of all, we need to know what we're perceiving, right? Like, um, there was a point in time in my life. I was going to say specifically when, but there was a point in time in my life where I was perceiving that I needed something from my mother that I didn't get, and I was looking for it in women. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I perceived that I needed a type of love, and so my perception was shaped and geared toward that type of being, um, and that wasn't what I needed. But I had to perceive, I had to deal with why I was perceiving that I was even missing something in the first place, and dealing with what that something was, and figuring out how much of it was real, right? And then dealing with what can I do to deal with the real stuff before I can start trying to deal with the emotions, And I think when we start tackling, and this is to wrap up the conversation, because I know sometimes people give us feedback and say that we don't really tell them what to do when they leave, um, but being able to use that process and say, okay, um, let me deal with the raw facts right now, right? Like, if a fire starts in my kitchen and we all run out, in my mind, my house is on fire, but in reality, it isn't. My kitchen, my stove might be on fire, but it's gonna feel like my house is on fire. You know what I mean? And that's where that perception piece comes in, and then really going in and fire extinguishing the kitchen. I'm sorry with my crazy analogies, but fire extinguishing the kitchen, and then really dealing with and assessing the damage and dealing with the situation, as opposed to running around frantically feeling like my house is on fire, until it is on fire and burns down. You know what I mean?
And then that's the thing.
And then and then you say, see, my perception was real the whole time, and it's like, no, because
Right.
30 minutes went by, you running around screaming, my house is on
You
fire.
let the fire. You let the house burn. The
Mm-hmm.
kitchen could have just burned.
Because
But
of
I
what?
want to say this, and I just want to jump in here. I don't want people, and I'm asking you, our viewers. He's taking a shot, guys. I'm asking you, our viewers. I don't want you guys to think that we had. If we don't give you a solution, just go with this. They don't know the solution.
And that's important. Yeah, say that.
We're not we're not trained professionals in any of these subjects. The subjects that we're tackling, there's a whole school of thought
Mm-hmm.
around them, and there are professionals who contribute PhDs to these schools of thought. And so, just because it sounds easy, things like anxiety and laughter, happiness and joy, peace and even tranquility. There are people who provide credit to those schools of thought. Robert and I are not those people. We are only on this platform because we identify with what you're going through. And so I like to look at this as a restorative circle where we provide with you what we've been experiencing and what we've done to
Mm-hmm.
kind of cope. and you provide for us. Because there may be a day, and I'm hoping that the day will come when Robert and I can just come on and just be 100 and say, look, this is what this is why we started this show, because
Mm-hmm.
this happened and this, and we said to ourselves, it can't possibly just be us. You know what I mean?
Right.
Going through, if the two of us are going through the same thing at the same time, it got to be a third or fourth or fifth. And I think you guys are the third, fourth, and fifth, and so on. And so I don't want you guys to get turned off because we don't always provide solutions, because sometimes we really don't have the solutions. And that's why I'm always reading a book or an article or something, because I'm always looking for a solution. The other thing that I wanted to just throw out here as we wrap up is, in light of, in lieu of us knowing that we have to drive home solutions, Robert and I have been talking about doing a devotional, and we're in the early stages of thinking and planning and how it's going to go. But it's not going to be your regular devotional where you just got to read about God or whatever.
Just
We're
leave it
going to
there.
incorporate mental, yeah.
Just
So it's not going to be your regular devotional.
no, I meant leave the plug there. Don't tell them any more about it, but you can go ahead. You can keep going.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're working on that, and we're really earnest about getting that off the table, and we're using this pandemic as an opportunity to begin that. But don't give up on it. And the other thing, last thing I'll say is, would you submit for us topics? You can follow me on Pastor Jack, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and hit me up in the inbox, and just say, hey, Pastor, y'all need to talk about this, or I'm going through this, or just anything that could be happening. We want to hear from you. We want to know, and we also want to hear testimonials. We want to know, 2 months ago we talked about a topic,
Yeah.
and you tried some of our steps and it worked. We want to be able to highlight that on the show and call you out and be able to say, Jeanette or whomever, Ashley or Ava or our regulars or whomever are trying these methods and these tactics. We want to hear about people that guests. So if you know anybody that we should have on the show that can engage in this conversation with us, definitely submit those. And the last thing I'll say is, don't forget that we're still selling the merchandise. If you want to be a part of the team, the fan club, if you want to be a part of that, go on and get you a jersey. I know I got my Nike on today. Now, I do have stock in Nike. It's not a plug, though.
All right, you're supporting your company. So, man, I tell you, man, God is really moving behind that curtain. But I think I'm telling you, God is. But I think too, and it's important. Hold on, because we gotta get in Tiffany comment too. I see you, Tiffany. We're gonna get to you. Don't worry. I do want to say that what Clarence said is absolutely true. Like, my life is a movie, so I don't have a lot of answers for a lot of it. When this book and these things, and really when I can really be candid and I feel comfortable enough to be candid on this live, and I'm getting there.
That's
really,
what it is.
Like it's really,
it's breaking through the ceiling. That's
really
what it is.
real. It's really real, and you'll start to see that a lot of things that a lot of people go through, though handled differently. I think it'll be a beneficial thing in terms of that testimony. My favorite scripture, I don't quote a lot of scripture, I'm not Pastor Jax, but my favorite scripture that I live life by is that, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So I just try to share my testimony as much as I can.
Either.
I'm sorry. I ain't Pastor Robert on here. Pastor Robbie.
You ain't Pastor Cruddy, because that Cruddy,
there's nothing cruddy about my hair, yo.
Let me see.
There's nothing cruddy about my hair.
I see that.
Tiffany said
one part go back first than the other part.
Tiffany said, I agree. Listen, Tiffany said that I agree that our childhood can shape our perceptions. I grew up with an abusive father. As I was growing up, it shaped my perception of men. It brought a fear that I would end up with someone like him. Now that I'm older, I know that I need to be careful of judging others based off what I went through. You need to still be careful too, Tiffany. I'm sorry, I didn't grow up with a father at all, so I can't imagine what it's like to have an abusive father in the house. Seeing the way that my kids look at me and revere me, I can't imagine the damage it would do to them if if the way they look at me and Clarence, the way your kids look at you, if you were an abusive person, like the damage and the
Unfathomable. Yeah.
deeply, I can't imagine seeing that.
Tiffany, I'm praying for you, Tiffany, even right now.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's going to shape your perception of men, and I'm so glad that you shared that. That's so deep. Because growing up, in that, of course, would shape your perception of men. And even if you see all these facts about, okay, it's this and he's this and he's this and he's this, and that, but when I look at that line or when I look at that gender, I see something specifically, um, and I think it's important for you to have that knowledge of your perception, because then you can start to begin to ask yourself, well, how much of it is true? How much, what abusive tendencies do I see in this person? I'm just giving an example. Does this person drink? No. But does this person, are they good with their kids? Yes. You can start to disarm that perception with dealing with the facts, kind of like dealing with that fire in the house. So I don't think you should try to mind screw yourself out of your perception, because your experiences are real, and that's years of experience that you're trying to just mind screw yourself out of. Um, I think that, and that's a very important. It's kind of like what Clarence said earlier. That's your ruler now. And you just have to know when you're measuring accurately, because that's your ruler, because that's the perception that you were dealt, and you have to know when you're using it properly and when you aren't. In my opinion, Clarence, I don't know if you share that opinion, or share a different opinion.
Well, no, I do share your opinion, but I also want it in the same context of that ethnocentric example. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure Tiffany has experienced opportunities or moments where her over vigilance has cost her great relationships. Um, and I'm not uh, bastardizing you, Tiffany. I just want you to be careful. And I think what one would have to do before they start using the ruler is learning how to use the ruler.
Mm-hmm.
If I gave a child a ruler and said measure something and they don't understand the metric system, then the numbers I'm going to get back is going to be all wrong. And
Yeah.
so sometimes we go into relationships with that same mindset. We haven't learned the metric system of relationships. And so here we are measuring people and the numbers don't match because we're not measuring them right. And so
Mm-hmm.
this one looked good, but the ruler was upside down. And this one looked bad because I didn't start at zero.
Right.
And so a lot of times we get real, it's really hard to be an adult, if I could just say, because you have to never, as it said in Invictus, that I am the master of my faith and
Mm-hmm.
I am the captain of my soul. And so although we know to be differently as Christians, but Henley didn't. So it's like sometimes we kind of go astray thinking we doing the right thing, thinking we protecting ourselves, or thinking, oh, he's too much like daddy, or she was too much like mommy. And
Right.
so, we'll go into a wrong direction. I just caution to be careful and don't mismeasure, but don't overmeasure either. For some people, they real cute in the beginning, and then you get them home, and they 2 inches short.
It's curly when you in the club, or when you get home, it's cruddy. That's what you're saying. It's a whole cruddy by
Talk
the
about,
time you get
hey
home.
yo, talk about, it's sweated out. Nah, bruh.
Ava said,
Nah.
to close us out, Ava said, thinking of perception, living in quarantine has made me change my perception on so many things that I once had firm beliefs about, like what school has to look like, for example. It's a minor thing, but just an example on how you can feel so strongly about something, but life changes your perception through experiences.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is so true. Yeah. I tell people this all the time. Life has a way of happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about age. It's not about money, health, none of that. Education. Just let life happen enough. You Life has a way of teaching you things. You know, and if you've been in biology, in biology and chemistry, there's a theory and then there's a practicum. You go to theory to study what the biologists have said, but then you go to the lab to put in practice what they said, to test out the theory. And life has a way of not only teaching you,
Oh, that's what
but
they was doing
showing
at
you.
college.
Huh?
That's what they was doing at college.
Well,
Go ahead.
with the one you went to, what were they doing? Coloring and painting? What were they doing?
I wasn't there that long. I don't know. We didn't get that. We didn't get that far. We just got to the introductions.
You,
Everybody
you
just
didn't get to the
introduced their
coloring
name.
part? You ain't get your new box of crayons? No, you paid for them, bro. Nah, you paid for them. Forget the
No.
meal plan, forget
Right.
room and board. You pay for them crayons.
Everybody, thanks for joining us tonight, and we apologize for all the technical difficulties that we had. Given the storm that was passing through, we just got knocked out a little bit, but we appreciate you bearing with us. We're still working on getting this thing perfect, and we're getting better each week. Thank you for being with us for 12 weeks. So far, we've done, this was number 12, man. This was number 12. So we're still very early, but we're really building a community that I really appreciate, and respect. So thank you all for being here.
And I can't wait to meet y'all in person. I really can't. We're not only are we thinking of a book, we're thinking of a create.
Go ahead, yo. Finish closing out.
Hey, yo.
What? All right, go ahead.
You don't put that, yo. Those are like them things they use at the nail shop to clean the bottom of your foot with.
Yeah, it got a little stripe on it. But
yeah,
tell them what
yo.
you're saying, yo.
No, listen. I want to meet y'all. We want to meet y'all. I want to meet you. Now, I'm not going to call you by name because there's some people online that never comment, never mention, but always log in. And so we want to meet you. And we're coming up. We're trying to figure out a creative way to make that happen, even if we do a live Zoom call with everybody. We want to meet you. We want to know you. And we also want you to continue to support us. Don't forget that the storm is passing over. I got 4 messages from Alexa today telling me that there will be a flood watch until 8:15, and then this, and I had to drive in it, and it was a mess. But guess what? The storm stopped.
The
I don't know
storm
how bad
is
the storm
over
is.
now.
I don't know how high the flood. I don't even know how many warnings you've gotten. The storm is almost over. Ride the wave. We'll see you in the week. God bless you.
Peace.
Peace.